All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining me. We'll go ahead and get started here. If you got your questions, go ahead and post them. It's going to be below the video if you're on a laptop, if you're on a smaller screen like a mobile device, it's going to be below the video. If you're on a larger screen like a laptop or a desktop, something like that, it should be to the right of the video. So I start with questions that were asked up to an hour before. So let me scroll down here and see who we're starting with. So we're starting here with Tester W. So if you happen to have posted your question before Chester W, so Tom J, Theodore D, I'm not sure exactly when these questions came in, like last night maybe. But if you happen to have asked your question more than an hour ago, no worries. Just copy and paste your question in there and we'll get it answered later on in the office hours. The reason why I do that is I just want to try to answer questions for people who I think are here waiting to see their question get answered. If you asked your question at 9 o'clock last night, or Chester who posted this question either at 11:30 last night or 11:30 this morning, I'm guessing you may not be here several hours later to see your question get answered. So that's why I do that. So like I said, we'll start here with Chester W. Says, any ideas on putter alignment? I play in scrambles from time to time. Others watching my putts from behind comment that I putt the ball perfectly based on alignment, but my alignment to the target is off, usually left of target. I'm right-hand putter, but left eye dominant. My address is a square stance and the ball off the front foot keeping my left high behind the ball. Thanks. So if you're missing a lot of your putts left, it just means that you're more than likely just how you're lining up is not matching what your eye is. So basically you have to train your eye to see what square is. So a drill that I really like to do is the drill where you take like something like this. This is I got this at Home Depot. It is an 1/8 inch flat bar aluminum, 1.5 inches wide by 4 to 8 inches long. It's basically like a yardstick almost. So like a yardstick would work really well, but just something you can set the ball in and putt it across. And what I like to do is I like to set this up and putt on it. So you can place the ball on it. And what this will do, set it up and line it up with a hole. Try to find like a dead straight putt. Something that wouldn't be too long after this, so something that maybe be like 6 to 8 feet, something like that. And this will help you kind of see the line going all the way to it and putt some balls on that. So I'm not gonna putt it because I don't want to hit my dog here, but that's a really great way to kind of see that and get a general feel for it. And then once you get a good idea and you kind of get your bearings a little bit, then we can take away the stick and move that off to the side and then try to do the same putt and see if you can get that same feeling doing that. So we're not robots. We need to be calibrating ourselves kind of all the time. So that's basically what that is just kind of calibrating yourself. So if you're basically pulling all your putts, the face is too closed most likely, then you need to use a drill like that. Another good drill is where you're putting through a gate. So you can basically set up a putting mirror like this and line it up. This has got a line on it, and line it up with a hole. Try to find a dead straight hole, and then put a couple of tees just in front there that are directly aligned. So your the ball has to go right through those to get to it, and then you'll get a feedback. Okay, I pulled that one. I pushed that one. If it hits the tees, make them really, really tight so the ball can just barely fit through there. And practice putting and getting a sense and feel for your eye for how you should be seeing things. So that's a great way to kind of train your eye to see things. It's not necessarily because of your alignment or anything like that. It's just that your eye isn't matching how you are basically lining up. So you have to train your eye to see where straight is, and those are a few drills to really help you to do that. All right, so let's keep going here. So Tom S says, with the driver, I tend to squat slightly in the backswing and straighten through impact. The rhythm feels smooth. and seems to help with weight shift. Do you see any problems with this? Thanks. Well, if you're kind of straightening up like this, now you can hit golf shots like that. Now it's hard to say exactly if I'm just kind of interpreting what you're saying here, but what you're saying, what it sounds like you're saying is that you kind of do a squat a little bit in the backswing. So you get kind of loaded up. And then when you start the downswing, you straighten up and essentially throw the club. Now it's a fine way to do it, but it's not going to be the most efficient way to do it. And you're also going to tend to have trouble controlling your face and your path. The reason is that when you stand up, your hands are going to go out that way, and that club's going to drop a lot from the inside, and it's going to tend to want to open the face. You can see when I do that, my face wants to open up. So when I come into contact, I'm going to tend to want to really flip my hands at it as I'm coming through, and because I'm standing up, I'm also going to do that. So it makes it difficult to control, the face and path of this club. Ideally, what we'd want to do is we want to stay in our posture, so that way the club is just going around our body, and that face is kind of already squared up, and we're not going to have that turning or that standing up that's going to whip that club from the inside. It's just going to be coming right down in the slot. So that's what you're going to see the tour players doing. So you can hit good golf shots doing that, but it's going to be a lot of it's going to be based on timing, right? It's going to be based, some days your timing is going to be good. You're going to have a good sense and feel for where that club is as you're coming down, and you're going to have a good sense and feel for the timing of the club face as it comes through contact. And some days you're going to hit some great drives, but other days, or sometimes throughout a round, maybe you'll have a mix, right? You're going to have a hard time. More than likely, you're going to have a hard time controlling it. That's why you don't see tour players who hit the golf ball like that. You just don't see any that do that, because it's just difficult to be consistent when you do that, because everything's based on timing. Whereas if you stay in your posture, right, you get this club nice and shallowed out as you're coming down, you stay in your posture, that club's on plane every single time, and you're also not having to whip that face shut and time it. That club is on plane, and it's square early, and I'm just turning through the golf ball, staying in my posture. If you go look at Dustin Johnson's golf swing, go look at most tour players' golf swings, but Dustin Johnson does it so well. That's why he hits the ball so long and straight. I mean, he's one of the longest and straightest hitters on tour, because he really gets that club nice and shallowed out, and he gets that club face square earlier, and really he just turns right through the golf ball, and that it's there every single time. So the problem is that you're going to be very reliant on timing. You can hit great golf shots, but it's going to be really, really reliant on timing. It's going to be hard to be consistent if you do that. So what I'd recommend working on is the move, maybe in combination with the stop early extension course, because that's basically what you're saying, is that you early extend to, and it feels more powerful when you do that. So it's just not going to be very consistent. So getting the club shallowed out, staying in your posture, turning through the golf ball, stop early extension course, the move course, those are going to help you with that. To get to that course, click the instruction tab, then click the Top Speed Golf System, and then you can find the move course. To get to you can get to the move course and the stop early extension course if you click the house icon. And then that'll take you to the homepage. Scroll down the homepage, you'll see a list of all the courses there. Sorry, I think I forgot to put my phone on silent there. There we go. Thought I heard it buzz. All right, so let's keep moving here. So Robert S. says, I have began to put my grip more in the fingers at address. I've automatically gained 15 to 20 yards with my 5-iron. My concern that to do this, I lose connection with my pad at the top to gain this distance. I'm getting more wrist hinge, but concerned about club turning. So let's just talk about the grip real quick, because it's, again, these questions sometimes can be really difficult because it's hard to know exactly what you're doing, but we should have the club in the finger some in order to hinge. So let's just go over, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over the main really important points of the grip, and then see if that matches what you're doing. Because there could be some things going on in the grip, other things that you may not be thinking about that are causing maybe that disconnection that you want. So first of all, when we're talking about where the grip is in the hands, you have the base of your pointer finger here, and then your first knuckle. You want the club to be going right through those two, and then you have the base of your pinky, and then there's usually, in my hand anyway, you can see I have a crease kind of in that part of my hand. Most people are going to have some sort of crease right there. But anyway, anywhere from the base of the finger to roughly about an inch below the pinky finger there, that's where I want the club going through. So if I have the club going through both of those points, it's going to look like that. So you can see it's a little bit in my fingers and it's a little bit in my hand. It's a little bit of both. I don't have it all the way in my fingers and I don't have it all the way in my hand. If I had it all the way in my hand, it would be very difficult to hinge the club. That's as much as I can hinge the club back. And if I had it all the way in my fingers, I would have all these gaps. I would have a long thumb and I would have all these gaps and it just wouldn't be very secure. I could hinge my club a lot, but it just wouldn't be very secure. So I want to have basically a little bit of both, where I'm able to, I'm having a little bit of the fingers, a little bit in your hand, and I'm able to wrap this around. And I don't have any big gaps or anything. My fingers are nicely spread out onto the grip, and I can get a good hinge when I do that and also have great grip security. The other thing, and this may be one thing that's going on with your grip, is we want to make sure that our thumb is next to our hand, right? That those are touching. I don't want to have my hand, my thumb away from my hand like that. So let me show you an example. So this would be where I have the thumb next to my hand, right? So, and this would be where I have the thumb away from my hand like that. If you have it like this, this may be what you're experiencing, where you feel like you're losing control of it because you don't have it in your hand. And the reason for that is that if I have it like this, it's going to want to move around everywhere. If I have it together like this, now it's not going to get in between there if I keep that right there. So you want to make sure that you're like that. Now, as far as whether you use let's talk about how the right hand goes on there first. So the trail hand will, if you bring your pinky and your thumb together, you can see the pads of your hands that creates a line there. And if you can't do that, there's a pad on your thumb here and there's a pad on the outside of your hand. You basically want right in between there, right in between those pads, to go on top of or to the side of the thumb, whichever is more comfortable or works the best for you. So you can have it more on the side, which would be more like that, or you can have it more on top, which would be more like that. It's really personal preference as far as that goes, but I like to have mine a little bit more on the side. All right, my pad, in between the pads there is more on the side of my thumb there. But your thumb should fit nicely right in between there. And again, with the trail hand, especially with the trail hand, is where we want to have that thumb and next to your hand like that. Because if I have it open like this, it's going to want to move everywhere. If I have it closed up like that, now I have that grip security that I'm looking for. So make sure that you're nailing those points, and you should be good to go on your grip. Now, as far as whether you use an interlock, an overlap, or a 10-finger grip, it's really personal preference. You can play good golf with either one. Typically you're going to see on the PGA Tour, you're going to see an interlock, probably is the most popular, followed by what we call the Varden grip, which is an overlap. And then there's actually a few PGA Tour players. Scott Piercy is one that comes to mind that uses a 10-finger grip. So a 10-finger grip would be for people that maybe don't have a lot of strength in their hands. It makes it a little bit easier because you're getting more coverage on the grip, right? So if you don't have stronger hands, it may be, so maybe you have arthritis, maybe you're a junior, maybe you're just someone who just doesn't have very strong hands. A 10-finger grip may benefit you a little bit. But if you're strong enough, I like to see people use either an interlock or an overlap grip because it's going to make it easier to get shaft lean and compression on the golf ball. And if you have the speed to be able to do that, I'd rather you be able to do that. So either one of those is fine. It's really just personal preference at that point. So that's really the grip in general terms. If you have any other specific questions about the grip, feel free to ask. But if you're nailing those points, you should be good to go on your grip. So Saki K says, please can you demonstrate how to hit the low spinning chip pitch into the green to check fairly quickly. So a couple important points before we get into that is your equipment. So in order to hit that low spinning chip shot, we need to have a high lofted club that is pristine clean. Dry, clean, grooves are completely clean. Everything's good. If you're using a dirty club, you're not going to get that check or that spin because that ball is going to want to slide on the face. It's not going to grab it, right? So we need to have a nice, clean, dry club face in order to do that. And you need to have loft in order to make the ball spin as well. So something like a lob wedge is what you're going to want to use. 56-degree wedge. You can get some pretty good spin with a 56-degree wedge, but somewhere between a 56 and a 60 I don't generally recommend super high lofted wedges like a 64 or something like that for most people. If you're a very highly skilled wedge player, I would say, yeah, but if you're asking me how to hit the low spinning shot, you're probably not a highly skilled wedge player. I don't carry a 64-degree wedge. I would probably not be very good with it. So I don't really recommend that unless you are in the likes of like Phil Mickelson or something like that. So, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 56, 60-degree wedge is you're going to be able to pull off this shot with. The next thing is your lie. What a lot of people don't realize is that the lie makes a huge difference in whether you can hit this shot or not. If it's wet conditions, you're not going to be able to hit that low spinning shot, or you may be able to hit low, but it's not going to be spinning. You're not going to have that grab on it. The reason is because that moisture is going to get on the club face, and it's going to it's going to slip on the club face, right? So we can't have that moisture on there because it's going to slip. So if it's wet conditions, you're not going to be able to hit this shot. Also, if it's not a tight lie, if it's kind of maybe tallish rough or tallish fairway or short rough or any kind of rough for the most part, you're not going to be able to get that spinning shot because there's going to be getting grass between your club face and the golf ball, which again, that makes the ball slip and you're not going to be able to hit it. So before you can even think about hitting the shot, you have to use the right equipment. You need to make sure that you could eat off of this wedge is what you want to feel like you could do. And the lie has to be correct. It has to be dry and tight. That's going to give you the most amount of spin. So now the most important thing is getting that contact. The contact is the next most important thing. It has to be clean contact. You cannot be hitting the ground before the golf ball. So you almost want to hit it thin, just a little bit to get that low spinning shot. You want to hit it on these lower grooves, and you want to hit it with ball first contact, no ground, at all before the golf ball to get the maximum amount of spin. So that is key. That is paramount. So if you don't have the skill to be able to make ball first contact, no matter what, then you have to develop the skill to be able to do that. Practice hitting your pitch shots and chips like making super clean contact when you do that. So that's the main thing. So now, as far as the actual shot is concerned, there's nothing crazy that you need to do to get the spin on it. The main things that I just talked about are really the main things. So high lofted club, clean face, dry, tight lie. And then what I would do is I just have the ball pretty close to the middle of your stance here. And you're just going to open the face just slightly. I'm talking about 15 degrees. And again, that's going to add a little bit of loft. And that's also going to raise the sweet spot a little bit. So that way you can hit it a little bit thin and get the spin. And all you're going to do, right, you're just going to lean a little bit forward and then turn back and through. And you have to make sure that you get ball first contact, right? So just kind of turn back and through. Feel like you're using you're hitting the ball with your chest is what you want to feel like. So you bring it back, the shoulder goes down, and then you open up the chest and the club comes through, and you want to make sure that you're making ball first contact. And if you do that and you get clean contact, you'll see the ball will come out low and it will have lots of spin on it if you hit it clean. So practice that. That's really, there's no crazy technique to hitting that low spinning shot. It's really just clean contact. Put the ball in the middle of your stance. And the reason why I say hit the ball with your body is that's going to promote. It's going to make it so much easier to promote that contact, that clean contact. If you're doing a lot of wrist hinge and stuff like that, it's more difficult to that's a different shot, but it's going to be more difficult to control that low point. So it needs to be a shot where you don't have to have that perfect contact on the face. If you're hitting a very wrist hingy shot, it needs to be a shot where you can hit the ground a little bit before the ball and use the bounce, and the ball can slip underneath, and it can come out high. It'll come out higher and will come down soft, but it won't be that checky spin kind of shot, that low spinner. So if you want to hit that low spinner, high loft, clean face, perfect lie, hands forward, ball about in the middle of the stance, and then turn back and through and feel that. Make sure you get that perfect contact, ball first contact, and almost try to feel like you hit it a little bit thin, and that ball will come out nice and low and with lots of spin on it. So Louis V says, with unlimited swing reviews, do students ever speak with instructors via phone, text, or email? So with my unlimited swing reviews, all communication is done through email. So all your communication with me is going to be through email. And all my communication with you is mostly going to be in the swing reviews, the actual lessons. And some of it will be through email. But there's no texting or phone calls or anything like that. It's all just email and the actual swing reviews themselves. If you have any other further questions about swing reviews, don't hesitate to ask. Let me see if anybody's got any spots available. So if you're unfamiliar with what our swing review program is, it's basically a program where you can send videos in of your swing, and you can have instructors such as myself review your swing. And, basically it'd be almost like you were going to take a lesson with me, right? So unfortunately, I can't offer in-person lessons at this time, and I don't see a time when I'll be able to in the near future. But I have done, a lot of in-person lessons in the past. And basically, if you've had an in-person lesson, if you've had a good one, generally it goes, you meet up, the instructor is going to watch you hit some golf. Or at least this is how I do it and how I've had the most success. And what I've learned from, Clay and Robin and other instructors that I've watched give, or myself getting in-person lessons. The best ones are always where basically, I'm hitting some balls and we're just chit-chatting, right? So we're talking about, how long you've been playing golf, what's your handicap, what's your big miss, like what's the issue? And then as I'm watching you to hit golf balls, I'm going to start to see, okay, I see what you're saying. I see that's the miss, and so on and so forth. So what I always try to do is I try to find the thing that is costing you the most strokes out on the golf course, because that's really how you improve. If your goal is to lower your handicap, which I think if everyone thought about it, a lot of people say their goal is they want to be more consistent or they want to hit the ball longer, but all of those things are to get the handicap to go lower, right? So if your ultimate goal is to lower your handicap, so what that means is we have to find right now what is the number one thing that's not allowing your handicap to go down. And for some people, they don't really know what that is, and it goes through questions and things like that I would ask through email and so on and so forth. So, and then we talk, what we hoping to get out of today, and things like that. So basically, when you sign up for Unlimited Swing Reviews with me, I send you an email questionnaire, and all the instructors do things a little bit differently. Probably not all of the other instructors probably do it the way I do, but this is the way I do it, and I found students have a lot of great success when we do it this way. So, and we just try to find that one thing, and then we tackle it. We basically make the weakness of your game, we try to make it a strength. And then once we do that, then we find the next weakest thing, and we start knocking that thing out, and so on and so forth. So that's really the path to improvement. So whatever it might be, I'm gonna give you a personalized lesson to be able to do that. I'm going to give you drills, and I'm going to demonstrate the drill, or I'm going to send you something that's going to demonstrate the drill for you. And I want you to work through the drill. And then I'm going to say, hey, in the next videos, I want to see this. Let's see if we can get it to look like this, or let's see if we can get, this is our goal, is to get this, and then we'll send videos again, and then we'll keep going and going and going. So that's the advantage of doing the Unlimited Swing Review program, is that when you go and get an in-person lesson, you're there one time, maybe you're there for an hour or two, and you get stuff done that day, but then you go off and and you got to work on it on your own, and you don't have that constant feedback all the time from an instructor until you got to pay for another lesson. So for the price of what it would be for a 1 hour lesson with me, you're getting a month of unlimited lessons. Now the lessons aren't going to be an hour, right? Because I'm not standing there and watching you hit balls, because that's a lot of times that's what you're paying for. When you go and you pay for an in-person lesson, the actual lesson itself is probably 10 minutes or 15 minutes maybe. The explanation of what's going on and all that, it's maybe 10-15 minutes. The other time is spent just doing repetitions and making adjustments and things like that. So you're not, with Unlimited Swing Reviews, you don't have to pay for all that. You're getting the lesson, and then you go out and you do it. Now there are advantages to the in-person lesson. You can see in real time, or am I doing it right? But the disadvantage is that it can get expensive to get the continuous feedback. Whereas with the Unlimited Swing Review program, I'm your coach. So just like, Chris Como is Bryson DeChambeau's coach, and and so on and so forth. They're constant feedback all the time. I'm your coach, just like that, and we're working through things and getting better and better and better. So yeah, it's mostly through email. Is what you're going to get. Now the other instructors, I don't believe they do texting and phone calls, but it's just not something I can do because it's something you have to set up, and then you'd have to actually pay for that time if you did that. It's just not something I offer. I think the email is really the best way to go. All right. So anyway, as far as swing review spots are concerned, I actually have some spots available right now, which is fairly rare. But I do have some spots available right now. If you'd like to sign up, click the get a review link if you'd like to check it out. Looks like Michael Durr, one of the other instructors, he looks like he has a couple spots available as well. So if you want to check it out, click the get a review link and then go to the Unlimited Swing Review page and sign up for the instructor you'd like to work with. All right, so let's keep going here. All right, so Joel H says, I'm a paraplegic and wanting to start playing again. I tried out Solid's cart with the other day and found out, not surprising, that I could not generate very much power as my turn is limited to about 45 degrees with no lower body action. Is there any way you can think of for me to generate more club head speed? Also, I have to move the ball further away to avoid my knees, so I fall. I have a flat swing. Thanks. So basically, all your speed's gonna, if it's a limited shoulder turn, right? So all your speed's gonna be coming from your arms and your wrists, basically. So I would just try to get it to where you're here and try to make sure that you're getting a good amount of lag as you're coming down, right? So we get up here, get some good lag, and that way you can release that. If you're casting, right? So if you're getting up here and you're casting a lot, then that can be robbing of your speed. So look on video and see if you're casting. If you are, there could be some speed that can be generated by getting some lag in the top speed lag course, and then working through getting that lag to release properly as well in the straight line release course. So those would be where I'd be looking at, but I would be trying to make sure you max out that turn as much as you can, because that's where a lot of it's going to come from. And then get that good lag and get that release of that lag as much as you can. And if you are physically able, I would make sure that to get some more speed, to try to do some speed training. Take 20 swings or so every few days where you're swinging with 100% effort. And what will happen is something that's called neural adaptation. We talk about this in the 20-minute distance fix, but basically your body is going to get more comfortable with swinging faster and faster and faster and faster. And then it's basically going to become your new normal. So I've done speed training before. And what I found, I went through basically what is our 20-minute distance fix. Now, some of it you're not going to be able to do because you're not physically capable, since you're only able to get a 45-degree turn. But the lag and the release part of it, you're definitely going to be able to do. And the neural adaptation part of it, you're definitely going to be able to do. So those are big parts of the 20-minute distance fix and gaining distance. So I went through the course, just to kind of tell you my experience with neural adaptation. I went through the course and I started out at 110 miles per hour and I got up to 123 miles per hour through the 3-week program. So that's working on getting a bigger shoulder turn, getting some lag, getting some better sequencing, weight shift and things like that. But the neural adaptation part of it is where you're swinging with 100% effort, right? So as I did that, now keep in mind that you're swinging with 100% effort. This is speed training. This is a practice. This is like a drill is what I would call it, right? So you're not necessarily going to be doing that out on the course. There's a difference between your play speed and your 100% effort speed. Your play speed is the speed that you can control. It's the fastest amount of speed that you can control things. You can control the club as well as you possibly can. And then your 100% effort speed is basically the speed that none of that other stuff really matters. You're just trying to hit it as hard as you possibly can with 100% effort. So when I got up my 100% effort, as I went through the program, swinging as hard as I can, I got to 123 miles per hour. And I actually tried, I went through the 3-week program and I tried to swing at my old swing speed and I swung at like 114 miles per hour, trying to swing slow, but it was still faster than what my fastest speed was before. So it felt really slow, but the reality was that it was actually faster because of that neural adaptation. So I'd be looking at lag and release, and that's in the top speed golf system. And then I'd be taking some swings where you are swinging with 100% effort to try to get that neural adaptation. So that way, your fast speed becomes your new normal. Your body gets used to it. And you just keep doing that until it's going to keep going up and up and up and up. So Ronald J says, good afternoon. How can I get over the nerves at first tee during the tournament? How can I relax? You're not going to. There's nothing that's going to stop you from being nervous. I'm nervous on the first tee every single time. It's just something you just got to get over it. It is what it is. You're always going to be nervous. It's not, just playing with buddies. I get up there and I'm nervous. If I have a breakfast ball, I'm up there and I'm nervous because I'm afraid I'm going to hit that 2 balls OB starting out, and that's not the way you want to start your day. So you're always going to be nervous. You just have to basically do it over and over and over and get used to being nervous on the first tee. There's just no way around it. And the biggest key is that, when I'm nervous, what I try to do is I try to just focus more on the task at hand and not exactly, because the reason why you're nervous is because of the consequence of what may happen. If you hit a bad shot, it's going to be, it's going to be a bad start and everything's going to unravel from there. So if you just kind of think, okay, this is what I need to do and just focus solely on that. Sure, you're still going to be nervous, but your focus is going to be on, you want to just kind of lock in on what you're trying to do. Get yourself in the zone. Don't think about all the bad. I know it's easier said than done, but focus on what you actually need to do. Picture the shot that you're going to hit, what it's going to feel like, what it's going to look like, and get in there and execute the shot. So I wish there was something I could tell you that would magically make you not nervous and just go on the tee and stripe everything. But for me, there isn't. And if you're the type of, now there are people I'm sure who are not nervous or anything like that on the tee. But I'm not one of them, and I don't know a way personally to do it. I know what works for me, or what I know works for a lot of people, is to just really lock in and focus on what you're trying to do, especially on that first tee. So that's what I would recommend doing. But I don't know of anything that's going to necessarily ease the nerves a little bit. Maybe the only thing I could say is maybe a couple beers, a little bit of bourbon or something like that might help. But other than that, I'm not really sure. So Cordell A says, I'm having consistency problems with my 59 and 65 degree wedges. When hit correctly, I hit the ball 40 to 50 yards, very high ball flight, about 30-40% of the time. I will hit thin 79, 80 yards. So I'm getting my hands too far in front of the ball on the line shots. Probably not. If you're thinning it, it's probably because you're hitting it high. Well, if you're thinning it sometimes and then hitting it too high other times, it's most likely because you're releasing the club too early. So your hands aren't in front of the golf ball enough. So I look on video and see what's going on see if you're releasing that club early. Because when you release the club early and you make good contact with the ball, you're going to hit the ball high because you're adding loft, right? And if you release early and you don't pick the ball, you're going to hit it thin, and that ball, you're going to knife it, and it's going to come out really, really low. So look at yourself on video and see what's going on there, and most likely it's going to be the early release. And if that is the case, I want you to focus more on swinging the club more with your body and not so much your arms, because you're probably swinging all arms and flipping the club. And I try to feel like your hands are in front and you're turning your body into the ball and getting your hands in front at contact. So it's more like that. See, I'm opening up. I'm using my legs and opening up. That's going to make you much more consistent with those clubs. And for more pitching technique, I'd recommend going to the Top Speed Golf wedge system and working through some of those drills as well. To get to the Top Speed Golf wedge system, click the house icon, then scroll down the homepage there, and you'll see a list of all the courses. Select the course from there. So James P says, I'm working on staying in posture. The right knee straightens a bit during the backswing. When starting the downswing, should my first thought be bending my knee back and towards the ball? That can help. That wouldn't necessarily be a bad thought. Now, the trail legs should be straightening out a little bit as we're starting down. But what we want to do, now generally a lot of times what's a better thought, or what I found is for a lot of people, is basically making this angle between your lower body and your upper body, making it smaller. So as I went up to the top, that angle got bigger, right? Because my hip opened up. So this angle here is now bigger. Now on the start of the downswing, I want to make that angle smaller. So it's not just my right leg, it's also my left leg that's kind of flexing down too, right? So that could be, that thought that you talked about, that might be a thought that would do that as well. But what we want to have happen is we want to have both legs kind of doing that. So if your thought makes both legs do that, then great. But if not, I'd be really focusing on really feeling that angle get smaller as you're getting down, and that's going to help you get into a better position. So John S. says, I really like the Trevino left knee tip you demonstrated recently. It helped with my balance and turn. Now I need to get a rubber snake to psych out my playing partners like Lee used to. Yeah, good luck with that. Glad that helped, John. All right, so Brian B says, I'm cycling between poles, losing spine angle and fat shot, getting stuck on my trail foot, trying to maintain spine angle. Are there any drills to help speed up finding the between more regularly? So you're cycling between poles, losing spine angle, and fat shots when you maintain spine angle. So what I try to do is, when you're maintaining your spine angle, is make sure you're shifting your way forward. So if you're losing your spine angle, right? So you're leaning toward the target and you're swinging over the top, right? So I'm leaning toward the target and I'm swinging over the top. That's where your poles are coming from, or over the top swing, right? Well, when you do that, the low point of your swing, meaning where the club bottoms out, is going to happen more toward the target, right? It's going to happen more that way. So if you imagine, if I swung 45 degrees into out, my club's going to bottom out over here. If I swung 45 degrees over the top, out to in, it's going to bottom out over there. If I swung 45 degrees in to out, my club is going to bottom out back here, way before the golf ball. So when you maintain your spine angle and you swing more from the inside, and if you kind of hung back like you probably did when you were swinging over the top, well, now you're going to chunk everything. So what you need to do is you need to maintain your spine angle and now make sure that you shift your weight forward so that way you can get that ground contact happening more in front of the golf ball. So I would just focus on, okay, maintain my spine angle. Now I'm going to try and hit the ground way in front of the golf ball. You know, maybe you're hitting 6 inches behind the golf ball right now, 3 inches, whatever it might be. I would adjust your feel to hitting, 6 inches in front of the golf ball or a foot in front of the golf ball to get it to where you need to be. Now, if you want some drills to help you to get that weight shift going forward, I'd take a look at our stop chunking and topping course. There's going to be some great drills in there to help you with that. So kind of combine the spine angle, maintaining the spine angle with the stop chunking and topping course, and you should start getting much better shots. Getting rid of that pull, getting the club on plane, hitting much straighter shots, and then also making better contact, not chunking it. So to get to that course, the stop chunking and topping course, click the house icon. That'll take you to the homepage. Scroll down the homepage, you'll see a list of all the courses there. Select the stop chunking and topping course. So Patrick Y says, please review the swing angle difference between short irons and driver. I know it is sweeping motion with the driver. What should my swing thoughts before hitting short irons? Thank you. So basically with an iron, because the ball is on the ground, we have to hit the ball and then the turf afterwards, right? So in terms of where the club, we just talked about low point a minute ago. In terms of where the club is bottoming out, the low point, that's going to happen more on the target side of the golf ball with an iron or any shot that you're hitting off of the turf, right? Where the ball's sitting directly on the turf. So a good swing thought would be ball first and then hitting down and through the golf ball, right? Down and through the turf, ball first contact. Now with a driver, because we can elevate the ball up on a tee, we don't have to hit the ground. Well, it's actually better, and it's better for distance to hit up on the golf ball a bit, meaning that the driver is going to come down and it's going to bottom out. The low point is going to be before the golf ball, and then it's going to be, and then you're going to hit up into the golf ball, right? So what I would do is a swing thought with the driver is thinking about basically staying behind the ball and trying to hit the driver up into the golf ball. So you're missing the ground, and then the driver is moving up into the golf ball, and that will get you that high launch, low spinning drive that's going to help you. So iron, anything off the turf, down, ball first, down and through, clubs bottoming out in front of the ball. Driver, we're hitting up, clubs bottoming out before the ball, and we're hitting up on the ball, and no turf contact, right? So Gray H says, hi, Q, can you talk about timing the unhinging of the wrists on the downswing? So typically that unhinging of the wrist is going to be happening when that lead arm is parallel to the ground in the downswing, right? That's when we see the most tour players. That's what we call the max lag position. You can call it the max hinge position, whatever you want to call it. But basically the angle between our lead arm and the shaft, that's going to be at the sharpest when that lead arm is about parallel to downswing. So somewhere in that area is where you're going to have that sharpest angle. So we're going up to the top. The angle's still bigger. Somewhere at the top of the swing is typically going to be about 90 degrees before the club switches directions. And then we're going to get to where we're getting more of an angle here. And then from here, that's when that angle is going to slowly start to get bigger. Now, a lot of people think it starts to actually unhinge down here, but it's actually unhinged some. If you look here, this angle, 60 degrees or something like that? And then I get here, and that angle is more than 90 degrees, right? So it hasn't really released a lot, but it's released a little bit over, basically, once your hands get to over the golf ball, right? And then they get to where they're in front of the golf ball, that club head has moved a lot. So it releases faster the closer it gets to the golf ball. It's releasing slower from here to there, and then much faster as it comes into the golf ball, because you're accelerating the club through contact. So that hinging action is happening right about in here. So we're wide, and there's a drill that I like to do which is very similar to the wide, narrow, wide drill, where we go wide in the backswing, narrow in the downswing, then wide in the fall through. Well, a lot of people, when they do that drill, will go wide in the backswing, right? And they'll actually go narrow in the last part of the downswing. So they're getting that full hinge right here. And once you get that full hinge, that's when you're going to want to release it, right? So what I want you to do is go wide and then actually feel like you're wide at this point in the swing. So that way you can hinge it. You can go narrow later in the swing. So if you're struggling with that casting motion at the start of the downswing, what I'd recommend doing is working on that wide, narrow drill, where we go wide in the backswing, wide in the start of the downswing, and then narrow as we come into the golf ball, and then wide through impact again. It's going to feel awkward, and technically you are kind of casting at the start of the downswing, but the idea of the drill is to get that to happen as late as possible, right? To get that hinge to happen as late as possible. So you're not so much timing it, you're trying to get it to happen as late as possible. And generally, when we look at the better players, when they're doing that, that lead arm is about parallel to the ground at that max hinge. Now, some players, it may be a little bit later. Like Sergio Garcia, he has his going a little bit later. Phil Mickelson has his going a little bit later. There are some players that have the hinge happening a little bit later in the swing, but generally you're going to see somewhere in between lead arm parallel and a little bit past that is where you're going to see that. And it's not something you time. It's just something where you're trying to get that to hinge as late as possible, and that's just where it ends up. If you can get to where that hinge is happening way back here, you just have more speed to be generated, right? Because you're going to get right here, and the club is going to travel from there to the golf ball in the time that your hands travel about a foot, and that's just going to be more speed that you're going to be able to generate. There are some players that have been able to do that. Like Jamie Sedlowski would be one. This is a long drive guy, but in general, if about anybody who's getting it to hinge as late as possible is going to be having that hinge happen somewhere in this area, and then it's going to start to slowly release from there. All right, so Tom S says, Q, to clarify, although I squat slightly in the backswing, I don't really extend because I don't straighten the lead leg until just about impact. I also turn my knuckles down in the downswing to close the face. I would just need to see what's going on, because your definition of early extension may be different than mine. But early extension, my definition of it is basically when the hips move toward the golf ball at any point in the golf swing. So sure, you may not be extending your leg until you come into contact, but if you're going like this, you want to extend, right? So what I would do is I would look at your swing, and I'd draw a line on your backside. And if your backside leaves that line at any point in the backswing and the downswing until after impact, then you're early extending. That's basically the definition of it, right? For the most part. Now, it doesn't mean you can't hit good golf shots, but the sooner you extend, the more you're typically going to be standing up and throwing the club, right? So it's hard to say without seeing your swing, but if you're maintaining that touch line where you're just coming off of it just a little bit as you're coming into the golf ball, then you're probably going to be just fine. You're probably in an area where you can be consistent. But initially with your question, it just kind of sounded like you were going like this and then like that. That's kind of what I was picturing in your mind, the way you described it. So Patrick Y says, where in the course can I find tennis racket drill? That's going to be in the move course. It's video 1.3 in the move course. So to get to the move course, click the instruction tab, then click the Top Speed Golf System, and then click the move. Then you can see in 1.3, that's where the tennis racket drill is. So Robert G says, good day. How can you cure the chipping yips of frontal lobotomy? Thanks. What I'd recommend doing is working through our chipping mastery course and get your typically a chipping yip is due to either using the hands and arms too much, or just completely losing kind of confidence with chipping in general, right? And not really like committing to a shot. So it depends on what the chipping yips, why you have them. Another reason why I see chipping yips is because people take too big of a backswing and then they slow their downswing off. So a good way to kind of cure that is to take a really short backswing and really accelerate through the ball. Now that's just a drill. That's not what you would really want to do on the course because that can be a little bit hard to control. But that can help you to really get to feel that acceleration of the club. And I try to feel like you're using your body more. Typically, when I see people with the yips, it's because they're using their hands too much, right? So you want to feel the club in your hands, and you want to chip with your hands, but you want to let your body kind of move your hands, right? So don't, unlike a putt, the putting stroke is, more upper. It's all kind of the shoulders, right, that are doing that. And your shoulders are moving your hands. Whereas with a chip shot, you want to chip more with your body, your knees and your hips, and that's turning your shoulders, and then your shoulders are kind of moving your hands. That's what you want to feel like. Get the hands in front of the golf ball, and that's going to help you to make much better contact there. So that's what I'd be looking at doing. So it just depends on what your yips are from, but the chipping mastery course will be a great place to start. To make sure that your technique is where it should be. If you're playing the ball really far back in your stance, chopping down into it, you're going to lose confidence because you're going to be in between a chunk and a thin shot almost every single time. If it's too far forward, then you're going to be chunking a lot of chips. So make sure that your setup and your technique is good. And then if it's a matter of the long, look at your swing on video and see if you're really long and slow. And I would just do a drill where you kind of go short and then really fast and accelerate through contact, and then ease off of that a little bit to get that right rhythm back. And then, like I said, if you're chipping with arms and wrists, that's going to get yippy real quick. So feel like the body, you're still chipping with your hands and you're feeling with your hands, but you want to feel like the body is making the hands move, not your arms and your wrists making the hands move. So Robert F. said, did my question get submitted? Let me look back. Yes, the grip question. Yeah, it looks like it did. I answered that earlier. We do archive these, so I'm not going to repeat the answer to the question, but we do archive these. So if you want to check out the answer to your question after the office hours are over here, I try to go in there right away and archive them. But if you'd like to see the answer, then if you missed it earlier, then go to the office hours highlights when we're done here, or give me about 10 minutes after office hours are over, and go to the office hours highlights page, and then scroll down that page. You'll find the office hours archive, and you can find today's office hours in there. All right, so we got about 5 minutes or so left. If you got any last minute questions, feel free to ask them. If not, we'll go ahead and wrap them up right there. So I'll give you another minute to ask a question. If not, we will wrap it up. So Louis V says, can you hit balls off the divot board? Absolutely. You can also use the divot board without a ball. Yeah, so yes, absolutely you can hit balls off the divot board. Ronald J, so in tour, any play, just relax. I'm not sure what you're asking, Ronald. So Mitch E says, when I really get swing speed up to 20-minute distance fix, it seems like the ball's head way right. So if the ball's going right, that means that your face is open. So I'd be working on the move, turning the hands down. So doing these kind of wrist angles, so bowing that lead wrist, bending back that trail wrist, putting that into extension there. That's going to kind of close the face as you're coming in. So if we watch here, if I do that, you can see how that closes the club face. So if you're coming in and the ball's going way right, face is open, you're probably got a cupped lead wrist, and the trail wrist is kind of pushing in flat, kind of pushing through. So what you need to do is you need to turn that wrist, bow that lead wrist, extend that trail wrist to get that face closed as you're coming through. So Ronald J says turn knee. Still not sure what you're asking. Richard H says Q again. I did not get a notice of office hours today. Richard, contact support if you don't mind. There isn't a way for me to fix that. So our support team takes care of that. So if you wouldn't mind, check your office hours notifications and make sure that you do have it checked for today. So to get to that, you go to the office hours tab, then click office hours notifications. And make sure that you have today selected. And if you do, then maybe check your spam junk folder as well to see if they might be going there. And if they're not there, then email support at topspeedgolf.com. Just email them and let them know what's going on. They'll look into it. So Ronald J says, in tournament play, I should relax and enjoy the game when starting out. Yeah, I mean, typically that's the best attitude to have. If you're really worried, it's easier said than done. But I know, my freshman year of college, I played terrible. I played really, really bad. And, I just decided I was going to relax and have fun. And I started playing better. So for me, the attitude works, but everybody's a little bit different. Some people may play better if they have a little bit of fire in their belly and they're mad, and stuff like that. And some people, that's a bad thing to have. So I will tell you, I enjoy playing with people more who relax and enjoy the game instead of getting upset. But yeah, generally, everybody's a little bit different, but generally, I think that is a good attitude to have. Mitch E says, thanks, Q, no problem. Ronald J says, thanks, Q, no problem, Ronald. All right, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up right there. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. We'll be back here tomorrow, Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Everybody enjoy the PGA Championship, first couple rounds here. And I will talk to you all tomorrow if you want to stick around at 11 a.m.